right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro giving it to you live on a Tuesday on 50,000 watts. Glad you could join us. And by the way, reminder, tomorrow's Wednesday. You know what that means. It means it's time to get in the ring with Michael Avenatti. So he'll be joining us tomorrow, and it looks as though Anthony Scaramucci, the former Trump press secretary for 6 or 7 days? Hey, he's got less lies than Sarah Huckabee Sanders anyway, right? I mean, so it looks like he's going to be joining us in studio next week with Michael Avenatti. You want to talk about a crazy group right there in studio. That's going to be fun.
That's going to be a show.
Yeah, an S show. We can't say that word on the radio, or the FCC won't like it. But that's going to be a lot of fun next week. This week, let's focus on this week. Besides, Michael Avenatti coming on the show tomorrow. Thursday, we got a big guest. This guy is not doing a lot of interviews. He's arguably the best college coach in the history of college basketball. And he was rumored that maybe he was offered the UNLV job. Well, guess what? I'm going to ask him that question. Rick Pitino will be joining us on Thursday with Mike Babcock from TMZ Sports. That's going to be a lot of fun. Ricky Pitino joining us. So that'll be very, very interesting. Coming up in the second hour today, we got Ron Futrell from Channel 8. He's going to give us a live update from NBA Summer League. And as far as sports gambling goes, Nevada is no longer the capital of sports betting, it seems. We will explain with Brett Smiley, who works for Sports Handle, who covers this for a living. Very, very interesting. The tides are turning. Jay Cornegay, our friend over at the Westgate Sportsbook, that can't make him happy. We'll talk about that coming up in hour number 2 as well. So, as you know, Mr. Sharp, I don't have a problem getting into it with people at times on social media, right? Twitter, we have some fun on Twitter now and again, now and again. I've never had a problem with people blocking people, including the president, by the way. I'm going to defend Donald Trump on this one. It is his Twitter account, even though he's got a gazillion followers. It is his Twitter account, and I think you should be able, just like Facebook, you should be allowed to block whoever you want to block for whatever reason. Now, listen, if you're a racist, I hope you're not. But if you're a racist and you only want white friends, you're a scumbag. I hope you go to hell. But you should still be allowed to. You understand what I'm saying, JD? You should still be allowed to block whoever you want to block.
You should be able to make your choices on who you want to be friends with.
Exactly.
Now, who you want to see your content, because it's your personal content. You own your own content.
Or another example, if you're a right-wing biased buffoon and you want to block every Democrat on your Twitter feed, you should be allowed to do that. So I defend Donald Trump on that one because he's blocked a lot of people, and I think he should have the right to do that. Well, Ocasio-Cortez has done the same thing. So I'm going to go after a Democrat now. His name is Dov Hiking, okay? He's a former Democratic New York Assemblyman. He has just filed a lawsuit against Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in federal court today for blocking users on Twitter based on their personal viewpoints, following a federal appeals court ruling earlier in the day barring President Trump from doing the same. Now, listen, I do not agree with this federal appeals court ruling. I think it is absurd. I think it is ridiculous. Like I said, you should be allowed to block whoever you want. This is what this guy said. He said, quote, AOC has blocked me on Twitter, apparently because of my critique of her tweets and policies that have been too stinging. He went on to say, just today, the Second Circuit Court of Appeals affirmed a ruling that elected officials cannot block individuals from their Twitter accounts. See, here, this is why this is really dangerous. This is why now we're in very, very dangerous territory. What's next? You can't block people on your cell phone? Is that what's coming next? Because I've blocked a lot of people on my phone, particularly recently, that I just don't want calling my number, including telemarketers.
Yeah, it opens up a real Pandora's box and a bag of worms, I think. When you take away the right to somebody to decide who they do and do not want to see their content or be able to get a hold of them.
It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, I mean, it's terrifying. If it gets to that level, it's not. This is going to stop. There's no way this ends up doing anything.
Well, here's the reason why I might disagree with you on this, and because of the federal appeals court ruling earlier today. It bars President Trump from doing the same thing. You can't have it both ways. The president right now cannot, or anyone in his administration, cannot block somebody on social media because of a different viewpoint. Now, if you call the guy a Klan member or if you call him a very bad word or something like that, that's different. But if you are arguing and debating this person on policy, cannot block you. Now, the thing that's amazing to me is Twitter is pretty busy. This is going to make them a lot more busy.
So then does he have to respond as well?
I guess you have to have some sort of defense now if you block somebody on Twitter, if it's not obvious.
And yeah, with all these anonymous accounts, and we've dealt with this ourselves on multiple occasions. Yeah. Now you're right; they're even more busy than they were. They're already slammed. They can't even get to as many accounts. Yeah. I mean, there's an account called the Vegas Fake, which we've discussed multiple times. I've tried to get them banned, and reported them almost 20 times. 20 times.
And we've had hundreds of other people report them as well.
Absolutely, and nothing has happened.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
And the site's not helping us. I mean, the page is doing nothing to.
That's clear slander.
Well, whatever,
and it hurts your business.
But you can do that. You can take someone's likeness, someone's photo.
Yeah.
You can pretend to be that person. You can act as they are. You can create an email with their name and reach out to people, like it's happened to Michael Avenatti on multiple occasions.
Yeah, let me explain.
And there's zero recourse right now, and this just makes that even more difficult.
When we announced that Michael Avenatti was coming on the show a few months ago, right, JD? It's been a few months. Not only was I receiving prank phone calls, and not only was Michael Avenatti receiving prank phone calls saying they worked for the Vegas Fake, but also a bunch of fake accounts came up. And the Vegas Fake is one of them. There's a few others. Now, that all that stuff should be banned and shouldn't be allowed. Now, if somebody hits you up and you have different political views, in my personal opinion, you should be able to block somebody for whatever reason. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
For whatever reason.
Whatever reason you want. Absolutely. How could you not? I mean, that's basically taking away your right to free thought process and free speech. If you don't want to see someone else's opinion, it's like it'd be like forcing somebody to read a post or an article or whatever it is. That just doesn't make any sense to me.
No, I mean you should have the right to block whoever you want.
Okay, fine. What if your opinion is so different? I don't care to see it. It's not directly targeting me, but it's so over the top in the other direction that I actually think that it drops my IQ when I read it, which has happened on multiple occasions. Mm-hmm. Then, of course, why would I ever want to? Why would I not want to be able to block that whatever it is, whatever I'm seeing?
What do you guys think about this? I'll take a few calls on this one. What do you make of this situation? First of all, what do you think of this guy, this former Democratic New York Assemblyman suing AOC? What do you think about this federal appeals court ruling that blocks the president from doing the same thing, from blocking people on Twitter that disagree with him politically? What do you think about that? Do you think it sets a really dangerous precedence? Because I do, and I'm going to defend the president on this one. Very dangerous precedence. You own your Twitter account. You should be allowed to block whoever you want, in the same way that you should be allowed to break up with your girlfriend whenever you want to, or boyfriend. You should be allowed to block anybody that calls your cell phone whenever you want, because it's your phone. You own it. You own your own Twitter account. You should be able to block whoever you want to block. We are living in a society today where everybody is so damn sensitive. I'm tired of it. Oh, it could go the other way. You could say, well, he blocks everybody. He's sensitive. Yeah, but it's his account. He can do whatever he wants to do.
The argument's probably, okay, well, this is the land of the free and the home of the brave, and I am an American citizen. I have every right to my opinion. And why is the president not privy to my opinion? You know what I mean? Like, that's probably the argument at this point.
Yeah, it's insane.
Which is completely nuts. You know, I mean, you can write your congressman, that's fine, or congresswoman, or congressperson, whatever it is. But the president of the United States, or anybody in any type of power, should not be forced to be able to not decide to look at what you have out there on your Twitter page, or whatever it is.
And I'll open up the phone lines on this one at 257-5396. Again, that number to call, and I'll ask you this question. Do you think that you should be allowed to block whoever you want to block on Twitter for whatever reason? I think you should. And I don't agree with what they're trying to do to the president, and I don't agree with this latest lawsuit with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The number to call, again, if you want to be a part of the show, 257-5396, 702-257-5396. Now, with that being said, I can't recall ever blocking somebody just for having a different political belief. I recall blocking people for, ridiculous, immature insults, or going after someone's business, or going after somebody personally, or going after a show because of a guest that you have on. Those are the type of people that I have blocked. But again, I would never tell you who you should or shouldn't block. Look, If somebody wants to block me for having a different political, I was going to say, if somebody wants to block me for having a different political opinion, they should be allowed to do that.
I'm going to give an example. Bishop Talbert Swan on Twitter says some of the most ridiculous things.
I don't even know who that is. Who is that?
You follow me. He's a very, very, very left-wing radical.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He says some crazy, ridiculous things.
He's a racist.
He's extremely racist towards Caucasians.
Yes,
and I blocked him because what he says is just so over the top that I don't even want to be.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
I don't even want to be exposed to it.
The only reason why I follow him is because I wanted to get him on the show because I wanted to destroy him. That's the only.
And I mean, when you listen to when you see the things that he said, I mean, how can you not?
I get point taken.
But there are people like that that are not targeting me directly, but just they're saying things that are just so.
And the point
ridiculous
being, you have the right to block somebody like that.
And I look at it like pollution of the mind. I honestly do with someone like that.
Well, you have the right. I would support if you have the right to block somebody like that.
And I would be very unhappy if I didn't have the right to block someone like that.
Well, that's what they're trying to do, and I don't agree with it. Let's see what the callers think out there. 257-5396. Let's start off with Lenny. Lenny, thanks for calling in, buddy. What do you think about this?
Hey, Lenny.
I think you're absolutely right, which amazes me because we're on the same side of this thing. You know, it is, and I agree with you. There are people on the left and the right that are so far left and so far right that they're just insane.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't agree with everything that President Trump says, but my idea is, hey, if it's my Twitter account or my Facebook account or whatever, it is mine, and I should be able to block those people.
And correct me, exactly. And correct me if I'm wrong, Lenny, but to me, it's just like owning a house. Hold on. When somebody rings the doorbell, you have a right to not let that person in your house. You can block that person, so to speak, right? Same thing with a car, right? And nobody wants to go in my 04 Hyundai Elantra anyway, but that's another story, Lenny, for another show. But I have the right to say who can go into my car and who doesn't. Why? Because I own the car.
And on the same token, you're still diminishing your own active audience when you block somebody. I mean, you've got 5,000, 6,000 accounts blocked that aren't following you now.
Yeah.
So if you want to market something, I mean, technically you're hurting yourself. Yeah. But if I think the thing is, if Donald Trump makes a statement and 55 or 60 or 50,000 radicals make some crazy responses to it, why would he not? Why would he not be able to block that account? Because the only time he would ever see what they're saying is when they respond to what he says.
Go ahead, Lenny.
And that's my point too. If you're marketing something, fine, you're opening that up to everyone. But if it's your private account and it's your opinion, and I spent 31 years in the service of the government enforcing your ability and your right to have your right of free speech, and I think you should, as long as it doesn't cross that line of, oh, hey, it's a fire in a theater type type speech. But I'm completely agree with you. If you want to cut anybody off, that should be your absolute right to do so.
Yeah, absolutely, Lenny. Good call. Appreciate it.
Why should we have to be exposed to insanity?
Yeah, no,
if that's the case, then fine. Make every single account non-anonymous. Verify every single account.
Yeah.
And if one person is deemed literally insane medically, then okay, I can block them.
Yeah, but you know what? Everybody, and I agree, but everybody's definition of insanity is different.
Why can't if there's so many anonymous and fake accounts, why can't I block a fake account? I mean, if you want to actually make this real life, then okay, fine. Every single person is attached to their account. It's verified. It's who they are. When they say something, they're held liable for it.
Sure.
That's how you couldn't do it both ways though, and allow all these fake accounts that you can't even block.
But you have to go both ways here. If you want to defend Donald Trump, you also have to defend Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. You have to defend both of them, and that is exactly what I am doing here. Donald Trump has the right to block anybody he wants to. I don't care who it is. It could be a nice 95-year-old old lady who happens to be a Democrat who disagrees with him on some policies, or it could be a Klan member, whatever. Same thing with Ocasio-Cortez. 257-5396, the number to call, 702-257-5396. Let's go to Steve. Steve, what do you think about this?
I just have 2 points on this. The first one is, how come we're not allowed the same rights that Facebook and Twitter have? I've heard of people getting into Facebook jail for posting things, and not vulgar, nasty things, but political comments of their own, and them being put in Facebook jail, which is they're active, their account is frozen and they can't do anything. Twitter's the same way. You can get blocked by Twitter. They have algorithms that pick out certain things that will kick you off of there. Why don't we have that same right? They can block everybody.
It's certainly, Steve. It's certainly, Steve, a double standard. I agree with you. And remember, these are companies that are making enormous amounts of money off of our private
Mark
information.
Zuckerberg is probably the third richest person in the world right now.
And I think that all this needs to go to antitrust monopoly stuff because they've got a stranglehold now. They're affecting elections, but nobody will admit it.
Oh, they're affecting a ton of things. Honestly, right now,
that's what I mean.
If one of the Jenner girls, if Kylie Jenner, who has 152 million followers right now on Instagram, if she was 35 years old, or if Kim Kardashian ran for president, she would probably get third place because everything she says, so many people are exposed to what she says, and you could thank social media for that.
That leads me to my second point, and that is you have to consider the source of some of these posts. Most of these people who are posting are educated beyond their capacity, and they're idiots. You know, they've been indoctrinated by the colleges into the left side, and they come up with these crazy ideas how to save the world and save the economy and save the coyotes and save everything else.
Yeah.
And they forget about, let's say, save our country, because we're headed down a slippery slope. And I won't even get into the many different ways I think this country's going down the tubes. But for the average middle class person, I think it's under threat. We're under threat from the left wing. We're under threat from criminals. We're under threat from terrorists.
Can I ask you a question, though? Do you also think we're under threat from the right wing? Because you mentioned the left wing. You don't think the right wing also poses a threat?
Oh, no. Everybody that's radical
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure, Steve. That's all. I agree with you then. We agree.
Yeah. Everybody that's radical is a threat to me.
No, I agree. I agree. Steve, really good call, my friend. I'm so glad you called in. You made some very eloquent points, and I appreciate that. You're right. I just wanted to make sure that we agreed, and we do. Look, you got a lot of radicals on the left that are snowflakes that I don't really like the term snowflake. I think you could use that on both sides. But you also have people on the right as well with their religious beliefs that want to interfere in people's lives personally. It goes both ways. So I agree with Steve on that, and I respect that call. And I could probably tell you right now, Steve probably does not have social media, and I applaud him for that. But when you're an entertainer or when you're a musician, whatever type of entertainer you are, if you're in the public eye any way, shape, or form, you have to have social media. You absolutely have to have it. It is a must. And yes, it is a cesspool of a bunch of radicals and a bunch of bozos.
You have to leverage a combination of YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, your personal website. You have to be active on a digital platform, spreading out whatever you want to spread.
I just wanted to share this story with you. This is a wild story because I grew up pretty close to where this kid grew up in Massachusetts. He was convicted of beheading his classmate 3 years ago at the age of 15. Why? The reason being because his classmate was hanging out with his girlfriend. You cannot make this stuff off. Judge Helene Kazara handed down 2 life sentences today to Matthew Borges, who's now 18. Less than 2 months after a jury found him guilty of first-degree murder, they found this poor kid's body in the water without hands, completely beheaded. This kid did this when he was 15 years old to another 15-year-old. So this is the weird part about the story, and the part of the story that I really don't understand. Look, I don't care if you're 15 or 65. If you murder somebody, 15 years old is old enough. He knew exactly what he was doing. He's a psychopath. But 2 life sentences with our justice system is not a guaranteed life sentence. He could actually get out of jail in 30 years. He could get out as a 48-year-old man. 48 years old, he could get out. I'm not comfortable with that. At the age of 15, if you murder a classmate, cut off his head and hands just because this person was hanging out with your girlfriend, I don't think this kid should ever be released out into the general public. That is my thought on that, and we got to take a quick break. When we come back, the NBA Summer League has been creating a ton of buzz. We've been talking about it on the show. And coming up next, we are going to get a live report from Ron Futrell, Channel 8, who was live at the NBA Summer League, actually doing a piece on Channel 8. I want to find out what the buzz is like there in the Thomas and Mack Center in the Cox Pavilion today, some of the interesting stories. Ron will bring it to us. Coming up next, you're listening to The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN.